Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. Let's talk July. I know August is almost over. Well, half over, if you will. But, you know, it's always worth talking about what happened in July. Because there's been a lot of ongoings. Now, most of it has been at the beginning of August, in the middle of August. But July sort of flew by, and it was sort of a lull, to be frank. And it's going to be really interesting because I think there's a lot of unknown for the rest of the last 5 or so months of the year in terms of what's going to be coming out. There aren't nearly as many games, big name games announced at this point, as opposed to the beginning of the year or even, you know, Mayish, when we knew some that were coming big names in the next 2-3 months. So that is really going to be where the interesting things lies. But July was sort of a little bit of a down thing. But I'm going to be doing a new thing in this video. By the way, if you have not subscribed, that would be super. Trying to get, you know, just more people interested. But I'm going to do something new, like I just mentioned. I'm going to give you my best game or two of the month. Honorable mention, maybe, and the best game that is new to me of the month. So a little bit of something of the insight rather than just what I backed, what I didn't back, you know, what's coming in, that side of things. So we'll do a little everything. So just a starter, I mean, I got a lot of smaller, lighter games played this month, which was really interesting. And I think that's really sort of the key of just being able to get things played. I mean, because I like the stuff up here sometimes. I mean, I've got Chronicles of Drunagor right now sitting upstairs on the kitchen counter that I need to read the rulebook through and so I can get it played. And that's actually a good segue. We'll just go right there. Because Chronicles of Drunagor, the Age of Darkness Apocalypse expansion, began in July. And so that's what I'm going to base this criteria off of right now. I'm going to be very inconsistent, if nothing, in these videos. But I think that's why you like me and, you know, put up with me in the first place. This is going to be really interesting because I'm going to be late backing. It's just I don't know how much. I am in already, and I have a feeling I'm going to be getting at least the Apocalypse Adventures, this right here for $95. Because again, if you've heard me say anything on these campaigns, this is always the best value. Whatever the core of whatever they're offering is, it's going to give you the best value for your money. It may not get you everything you want because there's a whole freaking metric ton in this campaign. And that's sort of been, you know, a bit divisive, you know. Again, the EZPAY, I've heard a lot of people that were really pleased by the EZPAY. And I think that's probably the biggest take-home message from this campaign, if nothing else. I mean, it really is. It really is probably the biggest thing to come out of this campaign, regardless of, you know, the funding goal, which was tremendous. It actually, what did it raise? Over almost $2 million. 1.5 here, but with the EZPAY, just under 2 million. With the Pledge Manager, it's easily going to break 2 million, which is about 4 times what they raised with the first campaign. So regardless of what you think of it or how you view this dungeon crawler, this was an overwhelmingly massive success. And you have to wonder how much of it was due to this EZPAY. I mean, well, I mean, metaphorically speaking, but literally speaking, it was about a quarter of the campaign, which again is the size of the whole first campaign at increased prices, no less. So for all the complaining you saw of the increased prices, people put out for this. Put out, that's a phrasing. Anyway, but that's the interesting thing in all of this that's sort of buried, that I haven't really seen anyone else talking about that side of things. Like, what is this going to do in the future? I mean, you saw GameFound spin out of Kickstarter when the inadequacies were addressed and brought up from that side of things. Are you going to see this inadequacy of people not wanting to pay or not being able to pay in large lump sums for these ever rising crowdfunding campaign costs? Because there's also going to be a video on that. Like, this is going to be the new norm, folks. You don't want to hear it. You don't like hearing it, but this is the truth. This is going to be more of the new norm rather than the exception. Period. And I say that aside from what is going on with the shipping fiasco price situation. I think that has only caused people to be more selective in how many they're backing, but it has not, as many people preach doom and gloom online on social media, especially Twitter, that stores are going to be empty and there's not going to be any inventory. And no, it's not going to happen. It's just people are going to be choosier about what they're getting. They're not going to back everything under the sun because they can. They're going to be smarter. And if you can't recognize that that's actually somewhat of a good thing, a blessing in disguise, that people aren't just throwing money at everything and you voting with their wallet for once, I mean, it is. So that's what's going on with Chronicles of Drunagor, and that's why I think it's important. Now, what all am I going to get? I have no idea. I may just very well stick with this Apocalypse base pledge. Because like I said, I'm getting away from the expansion side of things. You guys saw the video, or if you didn't, maybe I'll link it above, talking about, do you need all of the expansions? How many expansions do you need? Are too many expansions too many? Because this has a ton. The all-in is a ton of stuff. I mean, this is a lot of stuff right here, right? This is a big picture. This is a lot of boxes. A lot. Now, some of these you can make a good argument that increases some of the detriments or the lack of depth in some of the areas that this game has been criticized on. But do you need them? Need and desire / want are two different things. But that was really the only thing that I backed from July. Period. So let's go to my current crowdfunding. What am I actually backing right now as we speak? Now, this is going to catch you guys by surprise if you are newer to the channel. If you're not newer to the channel, this might not surprise you whatsoever. You just might not have known about it because I got linked to this from Miss Merck, who is a board game creator, content creator over in Japan. And she publicizes and puts out a lot of information about the Japanese side of things. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this one. Now, this is going to sound crazy to you guys. And this one, though, is like crowdfunding experiment extraordinaire from the Japanese side of things. And they opened it to the English speaking, English reading, translated side of things. Hizuru, Never Ending True Story, the looping co-op roguelike board game. So the interesting thing about this is they took a bunch of Japanese board game designers. And the concept being that they're just going to launch a crowdfunding campaign and design it as they go. With all of these high-name Japanese designers. And making a game out of it. And you can see it's already raised $18,000. There's 400 people, including me, backing. And it's been going on for almost a month. And it's not cheap. You can see 6,000, I believe, yen up there, if I'm remembering correctly, my Japanese currency. But this page has been slowly evolving over the course of the campaign. And it's just something completely different. And I'm so intrigued to see, and there's so little actual information on there. It talks about a little bit of this and how you're doing it, but it's still like bare bones. But it looks amazing. The art is cool, and I'm terrified of this. Like, either to get it and to, waste my money completely, or to miss out and never be able to get this again, because that's essentially what this is. An interactive event connecting with creators working on the project together. So it's $37 plus the shipping. So I'm looking at probably about $60 for this with the English rules and the English translation. I have no idea if this is going to be worth it, but it's such a grand experiment. Could you imagine like Nizia and Eric Lang and, maybe Scott Alms all coming together and launching a Kickstarter campaign or a crowdfunding campaign and saying, we're going to design it over the next month and you can get the updates while we do it. But this is the general concept and the theme. That would be such an interesting experimental watch, but this is basically the Japanese equivalent of it. So that's why I am checking it out. I'm not sure what I'm going to do by the time this ends, but it's on my radar. It's the first thing I'm backing right now. Second thing I'm backing is Velodrome. This is Gavin Birnbaum's game. This is, if you're not familiar, again, this is one I'm going to go right down to the wire with. If you're familiar with the Olympics, the super light bikes with the super, super thin wheels that race around a track, this is the board game handmade wooden equivalent of that. Where he hand makes all of these. You're going to pay $70 plus shipping from the UK, but you're never going to be able to get it again, probably in the secondary market. maybe if you're lucky from a rare side of things, because his games just don't show up in the secondary market. He doesn't make extras. It is what it is. You're lucky if you can find it elsewhere, rarely once a year maybe, of these types of his games. You just can't get them. And this is the typical indie campaign that people shout for from the rooftop, saying this is what Kickstarter should be. It shouldn't be a pre-order. If you like shouting that, then this is the type of campaign that you should be looking at. You're going to pay a premium. Yeah, it's not going to be the best value. And, we always worry about value and replayability. And, am I going to get my money's worth? You're going to get a handmade, custom, wooden piece of art in the form of a board game. And if you're not willing to pay extra for that, if you're not willing to pay for, whatever sustainability, I see this getting talked about with Earthborn Rangers, sustainability, this is all wood. There's no plastic. He does recycled cardboard boxes as the shipping containers for these when they get shipped. So this is the sustainable side of things. This is the not going over to another country to ship and manufacture and do all that stuff. So this is why I heavily scrutinize and consider supporting almost every single one of his, even though sometimes these games have absolutely no interest to me, but they're always worth a great in-depth look. Period. That is Velodrome. That's why I'm interested. Last one I am considering at this point is Arydia. Now, everybody knows Arydia at this point. This is the open world JRPG scaled down to minutia in terms of Diablo-esque equipping your character, searching through items and places and locale, and having NPCs and interactions and battles with pre-painted miniatures whose heads are switchable, and from the guy who did Zaya. And it's raising $900,000, and they went for a true funding goal, which is amazing. I love that side of things, but this game highly reminds me of Oath or Root, in the sense that what people think it's going to be and what it actually is, if you're not actually looking at the nitty-gritty of the gameplay, those two things are going to come head-to-head and clash when you actually try to play it or find out if it's for you when you get it in 2023. Because that's probably the earliest you're going to see this, let's be honest. That's okay. I'm not saying that as a detriment. I'm just saying realistic. And it's going to cost you $200 to do so. I mean, $190 right now for the only level that you should really consider. The base game plus the expansion, which is not going to be really available at retail. So the resellability is much better at the higher one. But it is a computer game in a board game form. Probably the closest we have seen, the closest we may see for quite some time. Some people are looking for that and are craving that in a physical form. And the counter argument to that has been, if I want to play a video game, I'll go play a video game. Like, I don't want to have all of that upkeep sometimes that goes along with this side of things. So I can see both sides of the argument completely well. And I was thinking there was going to be less of such detail. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there are some very innovative, creative ways, like how the combat is working and the exploration and the open world side of things. But it reminds me of the previous Kickstarter, Intrepid, as a cooperative, highly asymmetric game of survival on the International Space Station. But what it looked like to me was it took some of the fun out of it and it made it, or distilled it down into more of an Excel style board game. Because that's sort of what the impression was, and the conversation and the gameplay when you were looking at this and allocating and choosing. And I just get the same vibe, only now instead of an Excel spreadsheet co-op game in space, we're getting an Excel co-op JRPG. Where, again, like, I'm not saying that as a negative necessarily. I'm saying that as more of an objective. This is what it seems like to me. seems and objective, right? Those two things anyway. That's just what it seems like to me. And I say that as someone who I would love to try it out to see if it would be for me, but I also fear that it wouldn't be for me. And so I'm, again, this of the three games so far, surprisingly, this may surprise you, if nothing else, this is probably the one that I'm going to drop first of any of these three, because I am the least sure of this. This is Seventh Continent, the JRPG game, in a different way. And the upkeep with Seventh Continent as well was just too much grindiness for me. Like, I'm okay with grinding. I'm not okay with grinding that isn't fun. And this seems to take the grinding, to me, initially, and turning it into more of the Excel side of things, of managing each individual thing. And I say that as someone who really wants to like this game and who's seriously, heavily thinking about it and debating it. But for this price point, for a game I'm not sure of, I mean, I'd rather tie up my money elsewhere. Or frankly speaking, I'd rather almost not tie up my money. Because this is the game where, you know, I'm sure other channels are going to tell you this game, it value-wise is great. And I actually said that on my Kickstarter roundup. The value that people complained about, the $165 for this, I think you are getting your money's worth, period. I think just like Zaya with the limited print, and as well as with this little expansion like the sword ship or whatever it was for Zaya in the first place, wherever that was, right here, you know, just wasn't able to be found at retail, and so people were able to sell it for more than what they bought it for in the first place, and they're still able to do it to this day, I think. So I don't worry about it from that side of things. But you've also heard me say at this point, if you've watched some of my videos, that that is also, I am a hobbyist. I am a gamer, not a reseller, not a take a risk, and if I don't like it, I'll make money and tie up a couple $100. If I wanted to do that, I would have bought 2 or 3 copies of Ankh from Simon, because I knew that was going to sell for buco bucks at retail from the people that did not pick it up during the campaign. I would have done that. If I'm not going to do it on that, I'm probably not going to do it on this, right? So that's my hesitation, because I'm looking at other games that are coming up, Harakiri, Sengokushin, 11, the Football Manager, those things where I am more sure that I am going to like them. Because as I talked about at the beginning of the video, what's hitting the table right now? It's not games like this. I have Frosthaven coming, right? And I'll be honest, if it comes to this or Frosthaven, guess what's getting to the table? It's not this. That's my fear. That it's not going to be a great game. It's not that it's not going to be necessarily for me, but it's not necessarily going to get to the table in front of the other stuff that I'm looking forward to, as well as that I already have pre-ordered. That is my concern, and that's why I would maybe consider dropping it. So, there you go. So now, let's finish up the video with, and I decided this as I was doing this video, I'm going to give you my top 3 games that I played that were new to me this month. And let's be honest, I went on vacation and I played half a dozen new games there. I've played probably half a dozen other new games from review copies and just stuff that have been sitting on my shelves, as well as a few trades. And I played a lot of things that are going to stay on my shelf, period. So this was actually surprisingly really difficult. I'm no joke about this one. This one was really difficult. Third place was by far and away the most difficult to choose, and that is Let's Make a Bus Route, the dice game that I picked up from Sashi and Sashi that shipped over from Japan. It takes the classic Let's Make a Bus Route as a roll and write and makes it into a dice game, and it sort of takes a different spin on the I cut, you choose mechanism, where you roll the dice, you pick 3, you use them in one way, the other 3 dice are used by the other person in a completely different way, and then you switch roles. The downside is it's only a 1 to 2 player game, unlike the Let's Make a Bus Route base game, which plays up to 4, but the variability and the tactical adaptability in this game, as well as even a little take that, depending on how mean you want to be, makes it probably an overall better game, in my opinion, than the Let's Make a Bus Route base game. And that's saying something because I like that other game, but this has much more replayability, especially at a 2-player count. It has the 2 maps you can see here on the images. And so all of those features make it my game number 3, the 3rd best game that I played this month. And my second game, this is going to sound weird because my review coming out in the very near future of Cascadia is going to tell you that this is going to easily be one of the top 10 games of the year of 2021 that I've played. Period. It's that good. It might be in my top 10 games of all time, you know, if I decide to do a list like that by the end of the year or whenever. I've never done one of those. That's probably something else I should do on my to-do list. But it's that good. It's that good. It's that good. It's that good. As a game I picked up on Kickstarter as a whim because I wasn't a big fan of Calico. Calico didn't do anything for me as much as I love cats. The theme is was just not appealing to me, and this one struck all chords. And it is great from an adaptability standpoint. And in my review, I touch on this as well. It's a great solo game, it's a great family game, and it's a great competitive game at multiplayers as well as a gamer group. It is thinky without being overly thinky, and it hits all of the right notes. So then, you're going, okay, Chris, well, if you're telling me this game is going to be in the top 10 of your games this year, and even possibly your top 10 games of all time, what would surpass this? And I'll flat out tell you, I got a couple copies of Exceed from Level 99 Games. And I'm going to mark out for them, if you will. This game has consistently left me thinking about it afterwards subsequently. And there are very few games in my collection. As many games as I have played, there are probably the number of games on one hand that I can count that really make me go, oh man, like later, afterwards, or even like the next couple days. And I can say without a doubt, playing Exceed has exceeded my expectations because I had played BattleCon, I've read the rules for Yomi, and I've watched some gameplay for Yomi, and I kind of knew both of what they were, and it was explained to me that Exceed was sort of this the BattleCon light or BattleCon streamlined, if you will, and I said, well, that's okay. I like the idea of perfect information with BattleCon, so I'm not sure I'm gonna like Exceed, where it's nope. I like Exceed right now more than BattleCon. I do. I'll flat out say it. And I like BattleCon, but I am absolutely in love with Exceed. I am. At some point in the near future, I'm going to try and have dedicated content to this. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. Tell me what you'd like me to look like in terms of that. Is it box related? Is it character related? Is it strategy related? What would be of interest? Because I really, really like this game. There's lots of nuance. The seasons, Exceed Season 5 is this Blaze Blue, but it really, once you know what you're doing, it can be played in 15 minutes very easily. And my wife doesn't hate it either, which is amazing. She's kicked my butt twice. Actually, it was very, very close. We were both at I think I lost. She had 1 hit point left or 2 hit points left each of the times that we played right now recently, and I ended up losing. And so it's not even that I'm dominating in it and that I'm superb at it. It's just that it is that version of BattleCon that it just makes it excitingly terrific in a Street Fighter, old school arcade fighting style game with super power-ups and swings and combos that captures the excitement of it in the first place, and why you begged your parents to go and get more quarters each time you ran out while you were playing a game like this in the first place. So that's why it's the #1 game of the month. And obviously, if the other game was going to be in the top 10 of potentially both of them, your boy's going to have this one in it too. So there you go. Okay. That's it. That was my July collection as a roundup. I got a couple other things. I ended up doing the math trade in July on Board Game Geek. I missed the deadline for August. Duh. But I ended up getting a copy of Pandemic Legacy Season 2. And I ended up getting a copy of the revised Nizia Battle Line, Medieval Battle Line, which again was one of the ones that didn't make the cut in terms of the top games that I played this month, because I really liked that as well. Apart from that, I'm going to have another review of another small box game that just missed the cut coming out here hopefully in the next week, and that's Combo Clash, another surprise out of nowhere that I'm just really enjoying. So that's sort of what's also on the horizon as well in terms of videos. Let me know what you did in July. What was your top game of July? What were your top games of July? I think that's an awesome conversation piece, an awesome starting point. It tells everybody a little bit about what you like and what you don't like. So those were my 3. Let me know from your side of things, and we'll go from there. As always, that's all I got. So thanks for your support. Thanks for looking out for me. Thanks for taking the time. Stay classy. I'll see you around.